The Chiefs got back in the win column, and Patrick Mahomes is breaking more records. We're going to talk about that in the film session coming at you now. Welcome back. The Chiefs got off the slide, well, kind of a slide, 1-1 game anyway, and got back in the win column with a great game at home in Arrowhead, which certainly doesn't hurt things, but kind of bounced right back. And we're going to talk about that and its significance in a bit here. And we're going to talk about what Dee Ford had to say about it in particular. But thank you all for coming back to RGR Football. I'm Ryan, and this is me going rogue on the NFL, the AFC West, and specifically the Kansas City Chiefs. For all of you that are back, thank you for all the views lately. It's been a great run the last couple of weeks, and it's only getting better. So thank you for all your effort in watching these videos. And if you're new here, get on board. Hit the subscription and the notification. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing, and leave your comments below. All comments are welcome. Hope you guys enjoyed the live last week. It was right after the game. We're going to try to do that again this week. It'll be probably more close to that 6 o'clock time like we did the first time. So it was great turnout, and really appreciate that as well. And there was good reason, because this game was worth talking about, top to bottom. And you know, we have to start basically with the guy who's leading the press. Patrick Mahomes went and broke another record after throwing 4 touchdowns against the Bengals. Sunday Night Football, national audience in Arrowhead. It's a good spot to do it, I think. And what he did was, no one's thrown more touchdown passes in their first 8 games of a season than Patrick Mahomes. And he broke the record of another Hall of Fame quarterback in Kurt Warner, of all people. And that's really setting the tone. And here's the thing. He probably had another 2 of them in him. One dropped by Tyreek. I think this could have been even more, and I expect him to keep this kind of 3-4 touchdown pace alive. And at this point, at 22 touchdowns at this point, my preseason prediction is going to get blown out of the water, where I had him between 26 and 28. Well, he might make that next week for all I know. So stay tuned and just keep enjoying what you're seeing, because he's not alone. Yes, the passing game flows through him, and a lot of the other things do too, but what we've seen the last couple weeks is, as teams try to play those deeper zones, like we talked about in preseason, they go to these cover 4s and cover 3s. Playing deeper allows the underneath to come through, and it's not just the passing game, because what we've seen is the big-time emergence of Kareem Hunt and the running attack. And it's not just Kareem Hunt, it's the angry Kareem Hunt. And I like what I'm seeing, because he's running with aggression, maybe a lot more so in my eye than he did the year before. And as we go through, I'm going to show you a bunch of plays. Maybe I'll talk through some of them, maybe I'll do something specific, but keep an eye on what you're seeing for Kareem Hunt, both in today's video as well as the next game, because his aggression running the ball is really coming through. And not getting as much, power type stuff, although Sherman's played a few snaps. He's really reliant on Hunt to make the punishment all on his own. His balance and this leap that he gave you, that's just, not only is that a great Travis Kelce impersonation, but it's athleticism that shows that he's not just a one-trick pony. He's got that contact in the background, and that spin move was really well timed. And I think that what he's showing you is that he can do just about anything. Yes, he had a slump last season, mid-season in there. Some of the play calling had an effect as well, but a lot of it with the rookie wall. And he's clearly starting slow, but coming on in this mid-hump. And I think what you're going to see is kind of a peak, where you're going to see Kareem Hunt come up, and he's going to fade back down towards the end of the season. Try to conserve him a little bit, so that when postseason comes, he's ready to climb back up and really make an impact. And I don't want to leave Spencer Ware out, so just real quickly, Spencer is covering that same ground. Spencer's run with an attitude before, but I see a lot more edge from him as well, and I think it's that injury, it's coming back, it's understanding that a rookie took your job while you were hurt, and really you have to appreciate what he does. You can't really be angry at him, so I think you're seeing the best from Spencer Ware as well, and that he is running just as hard when he's in the game. Ran himself out of his own pace a couple of times, falling down untouched just because he was so anxious. I've done that, I have to say, so I think we can all understand it. you're so excited, you're getting there, your feet just aren't quite keeping up as you would like them to. And I think that's a sign of just how important this season is to Spencer Ware. We're going to talk in the offseason about all these guys that may or may not be here come 2019. But for now, they have a 1-2 punch at running back, and it's really helping. We're going to talk about the offensive line because nothing gets done without them, and they had another very good game, but a couple of hiccups afterwards, and we'll talk about that here later in the video. But let me know what you think about Pat Mahomes and Kareem Hunt in particular. Kareem and Spencer, if you want to. I want to know where you guys are at and if you're enjoying seeing this run game kind of peak a little bit more. Because I think that's a nice offsuit because it gives Mahomes and him a 1-2 punch, and the Chiefs are really in this position now. It was on paper the beginning of the season that they have so many targets and so many weapons, and they're going to utilize them to their best of their ability, and it was a lot of good talk. And then we saw Mahomes get off to such a great start, and it was a lot of Tyreek, and it was a lot of Travis. And I think what you're seeing now is this is a balanced team that can give you a 1-2 punch, and that literally on every play, you have to understand where everybody's at, because between the trickery in the background, the fact that Pat Mahomes, probably the thing that I think is most underestimated about him is his ability to pull off fakes. His ball fakes in the backfield are what is selling a lot of these runs. And it helps more than we can really estimate, because the speed of the game from a linebacker perspective specifically is difficult when you're trying to key on a running back and you think he's got the ball, but it's such a split second. The fake is good and you're chasing down a ghost at that point. And this is something, like I said, I think it really needs to be noticed more, or at least appreciated more. But he's not alone. His targets are still coming through. We saw Sammy Watkins have a better game. Got loose on a really nice deep pass to start the second half, and it felt like Andy Reid and the Chiefs staff really felt like they needed to get him involved again. It was a concerted effort, I think, and I still feel like he's coming along, but he's not 100% into the playbook, is the way I feel about it. Nothing against Sammy. It's a difficult playbook, but I think maybe his command of it was over-exaggerated to begin the season. But the guy that's still churning the butter is Tyreek Hill, and Andy Reid had some good things to say about him that really pointed out that he's not just the deep threat that we've come to know and really look for. He can provide that electric reaction, but this is what Andy had to say.
Again, I think he's worked so hard in the offseason to become an all-around receiver. So what does that mean? Instead of just a vertical game or the quick screen game, he's worked on all those intermediate routes that take a little bit of a feel and some technique at the top of the route, or technique setting up the top of the route, where you're actually back facing the quarterback. You saw him do a nice one on the sideline, where he was able to get the guys to back off, and some of that seems subtle, but he's just working shoulder from shoulder to shoulder in that area, and giving that corner a threat enough to put him on his heels so he can work the top of the route, and then to be able to stop, ball on time, and here we go. How do you get that? Well, you get it from working with your quarterback hour after hour after hour, right? And so they come out and they can time that thing up against that particular look, and he'll do it. So he's gotten a lot better in those areas. He understands what it takes to play that position. Remember, he was a running back at one point in his career, so in college. So this was a new world for him, and then to be able to do it every day. So we're not asking him just to run one day of the week. That's not what he's doing. He's running every day, and you have to run fast on these plays. And then even if you know it's a play to the other side, you've got to be able to run fast. So you have to have a certain condition that goes on with it, be in a certain condition to do that. And he's done that. He keeps himself in great shape.
And those are some strong words, and I think it's elevating where Tyreek Hill is across the league. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, it's making him more expensive too, so keep an eye out for that. His contract is going to be an interesting process here coming up next year when they can start negotiating. Let's switch over to the other side, and the guy that's really driving that force, I still feel like, and it's almost a surprise to say this, is Dee Ford. The contract year is really pushing him. He is really motivated. By all intents and purposes, he's still got a groin issue. He's still got a pull from the guys that I've talked to that are in the locker room. He's still icing it. It's still an ongoing situation. But unlike years past, Dee Ford is playing through it and playing better. He's not letting that dissuade him from what he needs to do on the field, especially with Justin Houston out. knowing that he's the primary pass rusher and has to be the catalyst for getting to the quarterback for this team. Nothing against Chris Jones, and obviously Breland Speaks is coming along. Hopefully Tano gets to play more this week. They didn't quite need him against the Bengals. They may against the Broncos. And I think the Broncos are going to send a lot of effort towards the quarterback, and I think the Chiefs are going to reciprocate. We're going to talk about that in the game plan video on Friday, so keep an eye out for that. But Ford had something really interesting to say as well, and that was that this was a game getting back to Arrowhead, and the team was very, very aware of the fact that they had started out hot in 2017 and hit a rough patch. And they were very aware that they needed to get through this game as kind of getting over the hump, especially with the record the Bengals had coming in, knowing that they're one of the better teams in the AFC. Especially, I think they're still going to win out against the Steelers and win that AFC North. So there's somebody that's going to make the playoffs as well. And knowing that you beat a playoff team by 35 points is a nice thing to have in your back pocket. I think what that fed into is they knew they had to have it and they got it. And I think that's a confidence boost as well. So very interesting to hear that from Ford. Now, the guys that I know you want to talk about are the inside linebackers. And something changed. Still not clear exactly what it is. I mean, Reggie Ragland's been really good about taking accountability for his play and the linebacker play in general all season. He's a guy that they want him to be a leader. They have expressed that they want him to be a guy that is leading this team, especially on the defensive side, as the years go on. And he's playing into that role. Maybe he's not performing quite well enough yet, but he understands what the role is going to be, and he's ready to live up to it. I like his personality. I like the fact that he doesn't hold any issues. You know, when he plays badly, he says it. And I think what that finally got to is that he and Anthony Hitchens removed some of the hesitation that we talked about last week, and that's really the key. It's not that they're any faster. It's not that they're doing anything differently. They're not playing any closer to the line of scrimmage on average than I've noticed before. It's just that they didn't hesitate, and that could be also a factor, and I have to give Bob Sutton some credit. If he simplified their reads and kind of let the dogs loose, well, that helps too, and I think it's probably a combination of both. But we saw a much better performance out of those inside linebackers. And I think especially against the run, that's what they have to do. Now, Reggie didn't play a whole lot against coverage. You know, that's really not his forte. And I think that helps as well. It saves him from exhausting himself trying to chase running backs that he really can't keep up with. It lets him be that alpha dog on early downs and really set the tone physically, which I think he's well prepared to do. And what it gave way to was a lot of Terrence Smith that we've had in weeks past, at least until the point that Smith got hurt. And that's going to be unfortunate. And I'll give you an update on him and some other things here in a little bit as soon as we cover this, because finally we got to see Dorian O'Daniel, and I know everybody was looking forward to that. I certainly was. And he showed himself to be the athlete we thought he was. And that's really the key for him as a guy that they've been kind of sheltering a little bit. Haven't seen him play a whole lot of downs. Got him some exposure here and there over the last few weeks. But when Smith went down, he got pressed into service. Next guy up. And it just so happened to be a guy that maybe they were holding back a little bit to try to let him mature a little more, let him feel more comfortable. But he took his shot when he was able to go in and made the most of it. We're going to look at some of his plays here, showing his athleticism, being able to do the things that this defense hasn't been able to do so far to this point in this season. That's key. That changes the element of this defense, being able to not have such a gaping hole in their coverage on third down for running backs. And that's really, really important as they get towards this second half of the season. They have one major contest coming against the Rams, and that's going to be a defense that's going to show them how it's done as well. But beyond that, if they can get him into the flow, protect that third down, and let him do what he did the other night against the Bengals, they're going to be in great shape. They're going to be a team that gets towards that median line of being an average defense. And really, for this offense, that's all they need to be. You've heard me talk about it on the podcast. And if you're new here, I'm also on the Locked On Chiefs podcast with Seth Kaiser and Chris Clark. You can check that out in the show notes and in the cards as well. We talk about that a little bit more in depth there than I can on the video, so give that a listen and let me know what you think. But I'm really happy with his instinct flowing over, because at first it looked like the game was a little too fast for him. There's a little too much thinking. But what we saw after a few downs, against the Bengals, he looked like the guy I saw on college film when I went through all the draft process last offseason. And that's something I'll be doing all offseason this year as well, so keep an eye out for that. But that injury to Smith is a significant factor in him being on the field. And what we found out earlier this week is that Terrence Smith went to IR. So at this point, your third linebacker is Dorian O'Daniel. Although Ben Neiman did get about 9 snaps late in the game, so that was good to see too. I don't know that they're going to bring anybody else up. We'll wait to see, get word on that. But you're going to see a lot of O'Daniel, and this is what he's here for. Attrition through the season. That he got his kind of pass early in the year. Now it's his time to play. They're going to rely on him. The other injury that really came up was Jordan Devey had an injury that I missed live. And it wasn't until the All-22 when we saw late in the game he had some kind of shoulder go out. He was basically playing with one arm. Turns out he tore a pec, and he is out for the season. That's an IR situation. I don't think he has any chance of coming back. Pecs are troublesome because the shoulder joint is so dependent on them to control movement. I think you'll see him next season, but that's going to be it. So what we're expecting to see is some kind of shuffling. Cam Irving played center all offseason during OTAs. I think he's the likely candidate if Mitch Morse is not able to come back. I'll have more for you on that lineup in the game plan video once we know what's going on. So that's where it sits today. One other thought, I thought the safeties improved. Lucas played well, except for that touchdown thing, which he was overmatched and asked to do something he shouldn't have been asked to do, much like Murray has been in the past. But Murray came in. They have a 3-safety rotation, and they might get Dan Sorensen back in the next week or two, so we'll keep an eye on that. Ron Parker, big play. I want to give him a shout-out, and want to shout out to you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you spreading the word too. We're continuing to grow. If there's something you want to see, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to accommodate, see if I can come up with a plan for it. But thanks for watching today. Game plan on Friday and live after the game. I'll talk to you then.